Good evening. Welcome to the Anaheim Elementary School District March 31st board meeting. I am AESD Board President Mark Lopez. I call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. This meeting is being conducted telephonically and by means of live video broadcast on our Anaheim Elementary YouTube channel for members of the public. Board members and cabinet members will be video conferencing together to assist in managing the logistics of the meeting. For English, you may connect by phone as follows. Call 620-412-8751. When asked, type in the PIN 706-521-691#. Para español, puede conectarse por teléfono de la siguiente manera. Llame al 631-591-6897. Cuando se le pida, presione el PIN 9711-5812-9 y el símbolo pound. Any member of the public has an opportunity to address the board by submitting comments by 12 p.m. on Wednesday, March 31st, 2021, online via an electronic form as outlined in the public speakers portion of this agenda. Submissions will be read aloud during the board meeting by the board president or designee. Let's begin with the board member roll call. Item 1A, board member Dr. Paulo Magales.
They can't hear anything.
Hi, Board President. Can we test your mic?
Mic is on. Can you hear me? All right. Well. Testing. Testing. All right. All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and do this since we're already running behind. All right, good evening. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Welcome to the Anaheim Elementary School District March 31st board meeting. I am AESD Board President Mark Lopez. I call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. This meeting is being conducted telephonically and by means of live video broadcast. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Anaheim Elementary School District March 31st board meeting. I am AESD Board President Mark Lopez. I call this meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. This meeting is being conducted telephonically and by means of live video broadcast on our Anaheim Elementary YouTube channel for members of the public. Board members and cabinet members will be video conferencing together to assist in managing the logistics of the meeting. For English, you may connect by phone as follows. Call 620-412-8751. When asked, type in the PIN 706-521-691#. Para español, puede conectarse por teléfono de la siguiente manera. Llame al 631-591-6897. Cuando se le pida, presione el PIN 971-158-129 y el símbolo pound. Any member of the public has an opportunity to address the board by submitting comments by 12 p.m. on Wednesday, March 31st, 2021, online via an electronic form, as outlined in the public speakers portion of this agenda. Submissions will be read aloud during the board meeting by the board president or designee. Let's begin with the board roll call vote. Item 1A, board member Dr. Paulo Magales.
Here.
Board member Ryan A. Rellis. Here. Board Member Juan G. Alvarez.
Present.
Board Clerk Jackie Philbeck.
Here.
And I am Board President Mark A. Lopez, present as well. Item 1B, public speakers for closed session agenda items. There is one public comment submitted. Ms. Camacho?
Yes. Public comment submitted by Lori Miller, AESD staff. Dear board members, thank you for taking the time to hear my concerns. I am a veteran teacher who loves my job, my school, and my district. I have been successful in teaching my students online and have established close relationships with my students despite the challenges this year. I am looking forward to teaching them in person. However, the entire staff and I at Stoddard are extremely frustrated by the lack of planning time you have provided us beginning April 12th. Currently, I am up correcting seesaw slides and planning lessons until 10 or 11 at night. These lessons include multiple slides, links, and templates. I have no idea how we are going to deliver the quality instruction we have been delivering with only 1 hour of planning time a day. I would love to share a daily lesson with you if you would like to have a better idea of what goes into this type of planning. In addition, the current bathroom situation is not working. We have 50 classified employees and 44 certificated at our site, with only one person being allowed to use the bathroom at a time. You can imagine the conflict this is creating. Per CDC guidelines, 2 adults should be able to use the bathroom at a time, given that the stalls are 3 feet apart. Please help us with this situation so that we can get back online with our students on time. Thank you and best wishes, Lori Miller. That concludes the closed session public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Camacho and Ms. Miller. Item 2, adjournment to closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved. Relis.
There was a motion by Board Member Relis,
Second, Philbeck.
seconded by Member Philbeck. Roll call vote. Trustee Magalis.
Aye.
Trustee Relis.
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez.
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck. I also vote aye. Passes 5-0. We will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you, Board President.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. We'll let the music subside. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Anaheim Elementary School District March 31st board meeting. I am AESD Board President Mark Lopez. I call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. This meeting is being conducted telephonically and by means of live video broadcast on our Anaheim Elementary YouTube channel for members of the public. Board members and cabinet members will be video conferencing together to assist in managing the logistics of the meeting. For English, you may connect by phone as follows. Call 620-412-8751. When asked, type in the PIN 706-521-691#. Spanish interpretation of the board meeting is available to attendees. Para español, puede conectarse por teléfono de la siguiente manera. Llame al 631-591-6897. Cuando se le pida, presione el PIN 971 158-129 y el símbolo pound. A few reminders, please mute your microphone when you join the meeting. Unmute when you are announced to speak. It is important to honor everyone's voices while they're speaking. Therefore, please limit chats in the chat during presentations. Board members, tonight all voting will be by roll call vote. When motioning or seconding an item, please state your name. For any items being discussed, please state your name before discussing the items. Thank you. Item 3A, let's begin with the flag salute. Dr. Downing.
All right. Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Downing. Item 3B, introductions and roll call. First, we have our board member, Dr. Paulo Macallis.
Good evening, everyone.
Board member Ryan A. Rellis.
Hello.
Board member Juan G. Alvarez.
Hello.
Board clerk Jackie Philbeck.
Hi, everyone.
I'm board president Mark Lopez. We have Superintendent Dr. Christopher Downing.
Good evening, everyone.
Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Mary Grace.
Hi, everybody.
Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dina Melland.
Good evening.
Assistant Superintendent Administrative Services, Jesse Chavarria.
Good evening, everyone.
Senior Director of School Safety and Operations, Tracy Golden.
Good evening, everyone.
Senior Administrative Assistant, Iris Camacho.
Hi, everybody.
Our interpreters, Mary Madrigal and Alina Avila Roque.
Good evening.
Our technology support technician is Janice Cato. She is here. She's busy helping us with our technology. Thank you, Janice. Item 3C, report of closed session actions taken. There are none. Item 3D, adoption of agenda. Item 8B.3 was removed at the request of administration prior to the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion?
Well moved.
Moved by Dr. Macallis,
Second, Rellis.
seconded by Trustee Rellis. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Dr. Macallis,
Aye.
Trustee Rellis,
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez,
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck.
Aye.
I also vote aye, passes 5-0. Item 4, special order of business. Item 4A is presentation of the 2019-20 district financial audit. Jesse Chavarria, Assistant Superintendent, Administrative Services. Priscilla Martinez, Director of Business Services, and Monique Manso, Supervisor. And Christy White, Accountancy Corporation. Or sorry, is that Monique Manso, Supervisor of Christy White Accountancy Corporation?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead,
good
Mr.
evening.
Chavarria.
Yeah, good evening, Board President Lopez, members of the board. Tonight, we're presenting to you the 2019-20 district financial audits. I'm going to turn it over to Matt Slusser, who's subbing in for Priscilla Martinez. Matt is our Director of Fiscal and Administrative Services, who will give you a little bit more information and introduce our auditor to you. So, Matt.
Thank you, Jesse. Good evening, Board President Lopez and members of the board. As you may know, every year, AESD undergoes a financial audit to ensure proper internal controls and compliance. The firm completing our audit for the 1920 fiscal year is Christy White Incorporated. Monique Manzo, Supervisor at Christy White, will be going over the audit report. But before I hand it over to Monique, I want to acknowledge staff for their continued hard work and dedication. Our team here in Fiscal Services has done an outstanding job, especially during the pandemic, keeping AESD in compliance and the gears turning behind the scenes. During the shutdown and working remotely, payroll ensured all employees continued to be paid. Accounts payable continued processing and making vendor payments. The 2021 budget was developed. Financial reports and audits were completed. The team here never stopped working. So on behalf of the Fiscal Services team, including Priscilla Martinez, Director of Business Services, I would like to hand this over to Monique in order to present the 1920 financial audit.
Thank you, Matt, and good evening to all of you. Thank you for having me. Before I dive into my presentation, I just kind of want to give a special thanks to Priscilla, her team, Matt included. You guys did an amazing job. On top of all the challenges that the district has been facing, we throw a remote audit at you for this past year, and you guys did amazing. So just, again, just want to say thank you. Next slide. So just to kind of provide a background of the audit process, there's typically 2 phases in a normal audit year. So the interim phase typically occurs around springtime. We focus on internal controls and state compliance. With internal control testing, we're testing the design and effectiveness of controls to prevent, detect, and correct misstatements that are due to either error or fraud. We do this by looking at the district's collection process as well as disbursement process and payroll transactions. State compliance areas are determined by the state audit guide, but some of the state compliance areas that we look at are attendance, instructional minutes, instructional materials, California Clean Energy. At the year-end stage, this typically occurs after the unaudited financials are approved. So here we're looking at all the account ending balances. That would include looking at cash, accounts payable, accounts receivable, as well as recorded revenue and expenditures throughout the year. Next slide. During the audit, the district's management and the audit firm, us, hold different responsibilities. So overall, the district management is responsible for designing and maintaining effective internal controls, like the ones I mentioned and also mentioned by Matt. The preparation and ownership of financial statements, as well as preparing and managing the budget. As an auditor, we're responsible for providing an opinion. So we're responsible for obtaining reasonable assurance that the financial statements are materially stated. And we're also responsible for conducting the audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States, as well as standards applicable to government audits. Next slide. So overall, there's a summary of audit results. So if you have the audit report in front of you, that would be page 85 of the audit report. Or if you're looking at a PDF, which is more common nowadays, you can turn or scroll down to PDF page 93. So this summarizes our opinions over financial statements, a single audit, so your federal awards, as well as state compliance. For financial statements, we issued an unmodified opinion. So overall, that's the best opinion we can possibly issue. Also, we didn't identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We also issued an unmodified opinion when it came down to your single audit. This year, we looked at Title II, Title III, and CRF funds. And lastly, state compliance areas that were applicable to the district. Again, unmodified, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Overall, you guys did a great job, and I'm really happy to report, overall a great audit. That would be it. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, seeing no questions, thank you for your report, and we all love payroll, so thank you very much for a good report on that. And let Ms. Christy White know that we send our regards. So, and thank you everybody to your team. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Monique and Matthew, and Priscilla, wherever you are. We appreciate you as well. All right, so moving on to item B, it is recommended the Board of Education receive and accept the 2019-20 annual financial audit as completed by Christy White Accountancy Corporation. Education code requires school district to have an annual financial audit. The audit has been provided under separate cover. The financial audit is available for public review on the Anaheim Elementary School District website. Is there a motion?
So moved. Relis.
Second, Alvarez.
Moved by Trustee Relis, seconded by Trustee Alvarez. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. We will have Dr. McCallis.
Aye.
Trustee Relis,
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez,
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck.
Aye.
I also vote aye, passes 5-0. Thank you. That takes us to item number 5, news and updates. Item 5A, parent leadership group updates. We have DAC, DLAC, PLI, and PTA.
We have a submission by PTA President Sandra Valdez, parent. Currently, PTA is assisting schools with board elections for the 2021-2022 school year. We currently have 50% of the schools completed. In addition, at council, we have had our elections for the next school year. We attended the 4th District PTA meeting where Dr. Downing received his Administrator of the Year award for the 2019-2020 year.
All right. Congratulations to Dr. Downing. Well deserved. Thank you, Dr. Downing. Any speech you'd like to give on that, Dr. Downing, or will you regale us later?
I can just briefly respond. And first of all, I just want to thank our PTA for their engagement with us throughout this pandemic. And we have the best parents in all of California, definitely, and I believe in all of the nation. The engagement that we see on a regular basis, again, helps us as a district to ensure that the voices of stakeholders are being heard. It's an honor to receive this recognition, but I truly accept it on behalf of our parents, on behalf of our board, and of our great stakeholders. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Downing. That moves us to item 5B, association updates, AEA, ASMA, and CSEA. Seeing no reports, that will take us to item 5C, communications and public information.
There are none.
Seeing none, that takes us to item number 6, public speakers. Speakers on agenda or non-agenda items. Request of visitors. It is the desire of the Board of Education to obtain input whenever possible from members of the community with respect to any items appearing on the open session agenda or on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. Written comments up to 500 words may be submitted online via a form received by 12 p.m. on Wednesday, March 31st. Iris, I believe we do have some public comments. So Ms.
Yes.
Camacho, we have 20 public comments, I believe.
Yes, we do.
Okay, we'll get you a bottle of water and please proceed.
Okay, first public comment submitted by Margaret Sutter, AESD parent. My 2 children, 7 and 8, are normally very social and happy kids. In the past 3 months, my girls are starting to become more stressed and worried. When I ask what is wrong, they both say they are scared they will not go back to school. Please make sure they go back. My 1st grader needs more fine motor and social skills. My 3rd grader needs to learn how to socialize and learn around kids at her level. The kids need to go back, even if it is for a short time. Thank you for your time. Next public comment, Tracy Chapman, AESD parent. Our children were born in the time of technology and can adapt much quicker than adults. With proper training for teachers, we could adhere to the virtual format until it is safe to return. However, in this pandemic is far from over, and rushing out children back when they've not been vaccinated is irresponsible. Better to be proactive than reactive. Keep them home, protect the community, better safe than sorry. Next public comment, AESD parent. The kids need to go back to school. Many districts around us have been back on hybrid schedule and most are going back full time soon. The numbers continue to get better, and yes, there are some people that are not comfortable with in-person learning, but that is why the district has provided options with Anaheim Academy. There will always be risk, and the normalcy will be gradual, and it starts with educating the public, starting with the children, on how to behave with masks, social distancing, and proper health and safety habits. Please let them go back. Next public comment submitted by Robert, member of the public. During this time, it is highly recommended that the schools continue to be closed until it is determined that it is safer to return. The calendar school year will soon end, which will allow more time to increase the numbers of people being vaccinated prior to the new school year starts in August, September. Next public comment submitted by Somer Hattori, AESD parent. Please consider these concerns as you think about and discuss the reopening at the next board meeting. Please first understand the recent survey given to parents asking which learning option they would prefer is not a true representation of how parents feel. The option to stay at home with very little teacher support is horrible for teachers, parents, and students. I worry that students will face an even greater learning loss if they choose this option. So for those families that are on the fence, like ours, the only viable option is to return in person. Therefore, the survey doesn't truly reflect all those families that are pigeonholed into the hybrid model. Second, when students and staff return to school, the restrooms are going to be a major issue. At our school, there will be a 10-minute restroom break that 4 classes will share at the same time. Due to the restrictions, only one person can use the restroom at a time. This means 4 teachers have only 10 minutes to walk to the office and use the restroom. At our site, there is only one women's restroom and the majority of staff are females. This does not include classified staff needing to use the restroom at the same time either. For the students, approximately 52 students will be using one restroom in 10 minutes. At our site, there are 2 student restrooms. One is restricted to SDC students only. We also have 2 kinder restrooms located in the classrooms, but they can't be used by other classes because of cross-contamination and learning distributions. So that leaves only one restroom for the general ed students. Students will be allowed to use the restrooms throughout the day, however. It is clear they will be standing in a long line. There needs to be a solution to this before students return. Next, we all know students are going to need physical education when we return in person. However, no outdoor PE will be allowed at our site because the schoolyard is being used throughout the day for all various recesses. PE is so important to help the students get their wiggles out so they can focus on learning. As of right now, students have very limited movement in the classroom due to the restrictions, so PE will be essential to their in-person return. Again, there needs to be a solution to this before students return to school. I am hopeful you will be able to come up with solutions to these concerns before you vote to reopen the AESD schools for in-person learning. Dr. McCullough's statement at the board meeting on March 3rd might be our best option. He suggested we stay the course for the rest of the school year and come back in August with a bang. Hopefully, there will be less restrictions, less COVID cases, giving everyone more time to come up with reasonable, viable solutions. Thank you. Next public comment submitted by an AESD parent. Dear board members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to first express my gratitude for reopening the schools for our children. I am an AESD parent whose child will have the privilege of attending in-person instruction 5 days a week. I want to thank Dr. Downing for his excellent work, transparency, and efficiency in always keeping us parents informed on the most up-to-date COVID data. I also want to thank the entire AESD team in their extensive preparation for each and every school site for the staff and the student safety. As a parent, I feel that it is a great opportunity for the children to go back to the school setting environment safely after being away from the classroom for an entire year. I appreciate having the options we were offered as parents to make the best possible decisions for our children. I understand that COVID cases do claim lives and have devastated many families. I also understand that as parents, we have that personal decision of what is to the best interest of our own families. With that said, if I decide to send my child to school 5 days a week, I have the freedom and security that I made that choice without any outside influence and feel that this is the best possible option for my child at this particular time. We live in a country where the freedom of choice is and shall always be sacred to the individual and should not be met with opposition just because one person had a bad experience with the virus. That is the reason I am so appreciative of the fact that we have the options to send our students to in-person instruction, virtual learning at their home school, or the online academy. With the increase of depression and suicide rates in the United States among children due to the pandemic, I feel that my child will benefit from being at school, interacting with his peers and building healthy relationships for their social, emotional growth. Keeping them at home is a toll on their mental health if they are ready to return to school. I respect the parents whose choice to keep their kids at home for online instruction because that is their choice. Even though I choose to send my child to in-person instruction, I shouldn't be viewed as a bad parent who will send his child to certain doom just because they themselves have a different view of their own children. We need not base these decisions on emotions, but rather on statistical facts that will benefit not ourselves, but our students' educational future. Please continue with the excellent work and progress as we continue to decrease in cases in Anaheim and anticipate the move into the orange tier very soon. Thank you for your time and for giving me the opportunity to contribute my thoughts. I really hope that we continue to move forward with the reopening plan today. Next public comment submitted by Rebecca Era, AESD staff. Hello, Anaheim Elementary board members and greater AESD community. I would like to share some thoughts and concerns that have been shared with me from teachers throughout the district. These are all recent communications I have received from Anaheim Elementary teachers. Dr. Grace Lee, infectious diseases doctor from Stanford, uses the term Swiss cheese in the California Educator magazine Feb/March issue. Reopening plans in the Swiss cheese model, there are holes. Not all teachers will be vaccinated. Even those who want to be vaccinated may not yet be fully vaccinated. We hope that the amount of virus that gets through will be stopped by hand washing, social distancing, ventilation. Some of the virus will get through. Teachers, students, and staff will be infected. Teachers will be more vulnerable due to exhaustion because of the excessively high workload proposed in this blended model. New variants are emerging that are much more transmissible and deadly. Spring break, where so many people are gathering without masks, very dangerous. We won't know who has COVID-19 until 2 weeks into in-person learning. Our community may be reluctant or unable to get the vaccine, and none of our students will be vaccinated. Remember, this is truly a life or death situation. We are taking chances with people's lives in the middle of health crisis. Reopening data the CDC is using is based on more affluent school districts that have resources to mitigate spread. The cumulative positivity rate in our area is too high and unpredictable. We should finish the school year safely online. When we receive training and begin planning for the return to school, so many thoughts and concerns came up. Many of us return home from work to care for younger or older family members, many of which will not have a vaccine for the foreseeable future. And the latest guidelines require anyone who travels during spring break to quarantine for 10 days. Our district is reopening immediately after families may travel and gather without masks during spring break. Today, the CDC director said she feels an impending doom of another big surge following spring break. We are not ready to get back to normal yet. Let's put safety first. If you are not willing to consider opening the schools, please consider providing KN95 masks. Please consider strongly encouraging or requiring weekly COVID-19 tests for all students and staff. In light of Anaheim Union and Santa Ana school districts deciding not to return to in-person instruction this school year, please vote with your conscience and do not let monetary incentives from the state influence your vote. Respectfully, Reba Era, AEEA Area Director and Kindergarten Teacher. Next public comment submitted by Chad Rutherford, member of the public. Dear AESD board, as I watched the last board meeting on YouTube, I remember Trustee Philbeck mentioning how she borrowed books for Read Across America, which I applaud. However, something as innocent as this is an example of how the virus can be transmitted. I believe Trustee Philbeck took every precaution when having the books delivered. I'm sure she disinfected every book before reading them and then again before returning. However, do you think every child would be as diligent when they see their friends and schoolmates they have not seen for a year? You may be able to supervise that initial interaction, but do you think there will be an adult to keep them socially distanced on the bus as it's driving? On the walk home, do you think some parents will start to rationalize that since their child is with their classmates several hours a week at school, then what's the harm if they meet after school? I realize you are planning on keeping everything electronic, but I'm talking about the level of precautions that have to be maintained. And for what? So most kids can have 16 days of in-person learning? That seems like a big gamble for 16 days. Currently, the TSA is screening record-breaking numbers of passengers traveling every day. COVID numbers are going back up at home and abroad. Have we not learned anything? People are becoming complacent. The numbers are already proving it. AESD has served as an example to the districts close and nationwide that they value the health and safety of the students and faculty. Why stop now? Why make teachers report to work and adapt yet again when they have been working from home and finally have a system figured out? Why expose people this week before a well-deserved spring break? They are being unnecessarily exposed. Asymptomatic employees could very well be putting people's lives at risk, and children are not even in the building. Dr. Fossey has stated that we have a chance at a semblance of normal 4th of July, but as stressed it, and has stressed it hinges on people getting vaccinated and remaining vigilant. How many students have been vaccinated so far? Last I researched, the vaccine is still in trials for children. Children make up the overwhelming majority at schools. I beg of you, please stand with the AUHSD and the board members who want to finish out this year strong in distance learning. Develop a plan to return in August. Keep our students, faculty, and community safe. In closing, I'd like to remind the board that what is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. Albert Einstein. Please do what's right for the students, not what gets money from the government. If it saves just one person's life, it's worth it. Respectfully, Mr. Rutherford. Next, public comment submitted by Roberto Tejeda, AESD parent. My wife, daughter, and I are very happy that AESD will be allowing students to return to a blended model instruction. It has been an extremely rough year, and we appreciate everything the district has done to keep our students safe in virtual learning environment. However, we do feel it is time that our daughter goes back to in-person instruction that will allow her the ability to learn in an environment in which she can receive direct instruction and support from her teacher, and allow her to interact with other children her age and expand her socialization skills, make friends, and have some sort of normal way of being an elementary school student. We considered going to surrounding districts that have either been opened or have recently opened, but thankfully AESD is moving in the right direction for our students. Next, public comments submitted by an AESD parent. Members of the board, I'm writing to ask to please reconsider the reopening of schools. How can a district that prides itself in being amazing offer their students such an unamazing plan to return to school? Students are currently being offered 4 days of online classes with a teacher and have been provided excellent programs to support. Now you want to move forward to 2 days for in-person learning. How can that benefit the student going from 4 days to 2? Not only will they have less learning days, but they will have a difficult time adjusting to the schedule. Hence, in reality, less learning time for the student. As far as your plan to those students staying in distance learning, it is a joke. How can you justify that as a learning plan? The student is left to learn on their own. Our community has been hit hard by COVID-19, and many of our children are afraid to return to school, afraid they will bring home the virus to other family members. They see their older siblings staying home safe. Why are they being sent back to school? Please reconsider for the mental and physical health of our students, but most importantly for their education. 2 days of learning is not enough. Next, public comment submitted by Ed Lopez, a member of the public. My name is Ed Lopez, and I am a resident of Anaheim. I respectfully ask the board to reconsider its decision to invite parents to send their children back to in-person instruction. Now is not the time. At this point, we have not reached herd immunity, and vaccine for younger children is still in clinical trials. The public health threat to your students and our community still exists. Nationally, the COVID infection rate has risen 15% in the last 2 weeks. Some experts think that that could be the start of a fourth surge in infection that is being caused by a premature relaxation of safeguards. Please do not contribute to that. You are dealing with competing interests, but you must think first and foremost of public health. Do not act rashly and contribute to the spread of disease and death. We may have herd immunity in the next few months. Please wait. Next, public comment submitted by David Lopez, member of the public. As a concerned community member, I wish to ask the AESD board to reconsider opening the schools until at least the fall. According to the LA Times, March 27, Anaheim is still a hotspot for the virus. Also, as a former teacher, I understand the value of education. However, too many of us are at risk and don't want to see another wave of infection. Thank you for your concern and consideration. Semperfi David E. Lopez. Next, public comment submitted by Yvonne Gonzalez Duncan, member of the public. I would like to address the board on the issue of opening the schools. I'm the California State Director for LULAC, League of the United Latin American Citizens, and member of the Anaheim LULAC Council since 2005. Due to the fact that AUHSD is remaining closed due to COVID, I believe that AESD should also remain closed since many families have high school and elementary students in the same household. Many families are still being impacted by COVID and should open when everyone is vaccinated. We hope that the board will do the right thing for all students at AESD. Thank you. Next public comment submitted by Jessica Jaime, AESD staff. AESD stands out from the other districts due to our esteemed focus. Many families choose our district because of the programs that we provide through our focus. A digital learning coach supports all aspects of esteemed. With the elimination of DLC role, all stakeholders will lose out on many learning opportunities. AESD students and families have had many opportunities to participate in learning through the MOBA, robotics, coding lessons, and competitions, engineering, esports. Innovative learning opportunities have been possible because of the DLCs. AESD's mobile bus, the MOBA, visits schools and communities where students collaborate through engineering, coding, robotics, and esports. You should see the excitement on students' faces when they see the MOBA pulling up. Esports is an amazing program where students learn much more than just playing a video game. Through teamwork and collaboration, students not only develop gaming skills, but also fosters SEL. Through esports, students learn about elements of art, videography skills to provide commentary, and being a positive gamer. These students have a purpose for coming to school because they feel a connection to their program, team, and coach. No other local school district provides this opportunity for elementary age students. It is a shame that our students will miss out on this opportunity. As a district, we pride ourselves on supporting teachers so that they can be successful and therefore provide students with well-rounded education. Technology is something that often creates a barrier for teachers. As a digital learning coach, I have seen teachers that were intimidated by technology for their personal use and professional use. We have been amazed by the continued growth of teachers and students alike. Because of DLC training and support, teachers now use Pear Deck, Seesaw, tablets, and Promethean boards, Google Classroom, Screencast, OneNote, Flipgrid, Whiteboard, Jamboard, etc. for academic discourse, student engagement, and checking for understanding, which will result in higher student achievement. This is due to the hard work of the digital learning coaches that provide professional development, create tutorial videos and guides, demonstrate lessons, provide in-class coaching, and debrief lessons with the teachers, but our work is still not done. There are still teachers in our district who ask for support. Who will teachers go to when this position is eliminated? Coaches and TAs are overwhelmed with the amount of work they have on their plates, and many times we don't know the answers. With this position being eliminated, it seems that teachers will not receive timely help, and therefore our kids will miss crucial learning opportunities. This is just a small snippet of what an DLC does to enrich the learning of our students. DLCs do many behind the scenes things that often go unnoticed. We help the coaches, administrators, families, and other staff members. Please take into consideration the elimination of the digital learning coach and the effects that it will have on our students receiving esteemed education that our district has been committed to. Next public comment submitted by Daisy, AESD parent. Dear Board of Trustees, as a parent of a student at AESD Juarez, I am very happy and in agreement with the board's decision to reopen schools this school year. I think it goes without saying that this pandemic has been difficult on all of us, and distance learning has not been easy, especially for our younger students. Over the past year, I have seen my 6-year-old son regress in so many ways, socially and academically. Getting ready for school used to be a pleasant experience. Now it's met with resistance and dread. Schools provide more than academic learning. They help our students learn how to socialize with others, something that can't be replicated during distance learning. I completely understand that we need to take COVID very seriously, but I am confident that AESD will strictly follow safety protocols to keep my son safe. We live with the boundaries of the Placentia Yorba Linda School District, but decided to bring our son to AESD because we feel our district offers a holistic learning experience, and the DLA program is second to none when compared to surrounding school districts. The board's decision to reopen schools at this time solidified our view of AESD. AESD puts students first, and ultimately that's why we are happy and grateful to be part of this school district. Daisy Gomez, AESD parent. Next public comment submitted by Adela Lopez, Los Amigos Education Committee, member of the public. Members of the AESD board. The Los Amigos of Orange County Education Committee strongly opposes the reopening of the Anaheim elementary schools prior to the end of the current school year. Our membership is comprised of current and former educators, counselors, school administrators, and board members, as well as public service professionals who have come together as a community of stakeholders. Our focus and mission are to advocate for our students and families, seeking ways and means to enhance student access, their success and transition into the world of work, while keeping their physical, intellectual, and emotional well-being as primary concerns. The decision to reopen in April, as per the March 3 meeting, presents serious challenges for our students and families and further jeopardizes the stability and future of our community in Anaheim. The ASD also needs to reassess the decision to open in April, given the OC coronavirus tracker report of March 30 that shows a 210 14-day total new cases in Anaheim, the most of any other city in OC, including Santa Ana. Anaheim is still a hotspot. Consider as well, according to the LA Times, OC March 27, Latinos are being vaccinated at a much slower rate. Only 3% have received one dose, and when our children get COVID, we don't know its full impact on them. During the March 3 meeting, several members of the BD and Superintendent Downey consistently cited references to other Orange County districts, alluding that Anaheim's COVID numbers and risks were comparable to those in wider, wealthier areas. In fact, even as late as March 30, 2021, County COVID-19 dashboard indicates nothing could be further from the truth when comparing Anaheim's 0 to 18 years numbers, 5,313, with the exception of Santa Ana, 6,126. These larger districts' demographics, predominantly poor, Hispanic, immigrant, multi-generational family, and essential working class, are truly the only comparable ones when assessing the severity of the pandemic in sickness, hospitalizations, loss of life, loss of income, and ongoing health issues. The dashboard also indicated an interesting piece of data. Of the 5,313 children infected with COVID, 2,627 were 12 and younger, predominantly elementary school age. 2,686 were 13 to 18 or middle to high school. A similar scenario exists in Santa Ana. 3,062 were 12 and under to 3,064, 13 through 18 years of age. In both districts, it's about 50-50 split between the elementary and middle high schoolers. Here is the point we wish to make. Santa Ana Unified School District and AUHSD have both elected to continue distance learning for the remainder of the school year, realizing that physical, intellectual, and emotional well-being of their students and families are at stake when our vulnerable youth and potent vectors can unwittingly undermine the strength of the well-being of our community, our families. We also know that many students at AUHSD have younger siblings attending AESD, and your decision to reopen would invalidate and destabilize the integrity of their vote and create a dilemma for many parents trying to understand and trust public education. Next public comment submitted by Miguel Lopez, AESD parent. Esteemed board members, thank you for taking the time to read this statement. While it is good to see our numbers falling in regard to hospitalizations and positivity rates, it is important to note that the trend in numbers is starting to swing in the opposite direction. Our district continues to lead Orange County in rates of infected residents, which includes our children. This is why I do not understand why certain board members insisted on comparing data from other nearby districts as part of the criteria to reopen schools to in-person learning. Our district is heavily brown, and most parents do not have the luxury of working from home. We also have a lot of mixed extended family homes that do not allow us to isolate or maintain social distancing. Given these factors, I must reiterate my opposition to the planned reopening of our schools for the last few weeks of the school year. We as a community are not ready, and we will disproportionately suffer from any predicted future outbreaks. Thank you. Next public comment submitted by Sal, AESD parent. I want to thank Jackie Philbeck, Ryan Relas, and Mark Lopez for taking a stand and doing the right thing, which was to vote for our kids going back to in-person learning. This was a tough decision because these individuals had to go against their peers and friends. The reason they need to be recognized is because they took their personal beliefs and their personal feelings and set them aside and voted with their mind. The kids are not learning at all via Zoom or online. This is just better than nothing at all. And you're a fool if you believe they are. The time lost and the setback all these kids having is going to take some serious hard work to catch up. I hope you're ready to put in the time to create a program to catch up. All the cities around Anaheim have opened up and nothing catastrophic has happened. So let's be wise and adapt to the fast change this virus is experiencing and let the kids go back to school in person full time, if you ask me. The numbers are changing super fast for the better. Anaheim for the better, and Anaheim is behind and using older strategies when the virus was worse. Next public comment submitted by Tanya Sanchez, ASD parent. Our kids must return to school. We are doing a disservice to them by keeping them at home. As of Tuesday, 3:30, OC County as a whole moved into moderate tier 3. The 7-day average case rate is 2.8. That is well below the threshold. There is no reason why our kids should not be able to attend in person. All of our school districts in our bordering cities have been open for quite some time now. My 2 kids in grades TK and first have been attending the Anaheim Chiefs YMCA program at Ross in person since the beginning of the school August 13, 2020. They attended 5 days a week from 7:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. There has not been one single outbreak of COVID in their classes. The school is taking the correct safety measures to ensure the health of our students. Our school teachers have all had the opportunity to get vaccinated, so they too are safe at school. The time is now to return to school. I ask that you truly consider our children and their well-being. They need to be back in school to receive that in-person instruction and also to socially interact with their peers. This is fundamental to their learning and development and their self-esteem. My youngest TK student has been asking every single night, when will he be able to return to school? His eyes light up and he gets so excited and happy at the thought of being physically present at school with this amazing teacher and fellow classmates. The last public comment was submitted by an AESD parent. Good evening, board members. I am writing in regards to the reopening scheduled for April 12, 2021. I do not agree that this is what is best for our students. It was disheartening to see how dismissive some of the board members were to concerns regarding reopening. In my opinion, the plan to stay distance learning and reopen in the fall is an excellent one. The current plan, where students only get 3 instruction days a week, is not equitable. There is always a lot of talk about learning loss, and taking away instructional days is not a good solution to this. Board member Alvarez spoke to this on the March 3rd meeting. Providing an equitable education to our community isn't one where instruction days get taken away. What is the purpose of this? I know my child misses being in person with their peers and teachers, but I also don't want to rush into things. The options given to parents have been awful, and for what? the incentive money by the governor. My hope has always been that my child attends a district that truly puts them first. I don't think you all realize how hard this has been for parents. Of course, we want our students back, but this late in the school year doesn't make sense to me. Let us stay distance learning so that we still have our sense of routine and we can all return safely in the fall. Board Member Alvarez and Board Member Dr. McCauley, thank you for advocating for the communities and students you serve. Thank you for putting us before money. That concludes the public comments for tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move to item 7A, Superintendent's Report. We have school reopening update. Dr. Christopher Downing, Superintendent, Tracy Golden, Senior Director of School Safety and Operations, and Dr. Emma Robles, Westmont Elementary School Principal.
Good evening, board members, once again in Anaheim. We'd like to begin tonight's presentation, and Iris Camacho is going to help us advance the slides. Iris, let's move to the next slide, please. So this evening, we'd like to begin with the review of the COVID data for Anaheim and Orange County. Next slide, please. So as of today, March 31st, 2021, Orange County has now advanced to the orange tier or the moderate tier. This data indicates that there are 2.8 daily new cases per 100,000 citizens. And on the left, you can see that moderate is achieved when the daily new cases are between 1 and 3.9, and the positive tests are between 2 and 4.9. Next slide, please. This graphic compares the data in Anaheim to Orange County. And this graph is based on data from November 23rd through March 25th. And as you can see, the orange line represents Orange County. And for the months of November and December, the orange line, as well as earlier in the year, was much higher. The case rates were much higher in Orange County versus Anaheim. And this is a change over the course of the year. Throughout the year, in the majority of time, the data in Anaheim exceeded Orange County. And if you look at this graph, you will see that we reverted to that trend in early January. But if you'll notice in January 2nd, that the data in Orange County again exceeded Anaheim. I would like to call your attention finally to the right side of this graph. The lines will indicate that we are narrowing the gap. And as you look on the bottom, this is a presentation of 7 days of data. And you will see that on March 28th in Anaheim, in our zip codes, we were at 4.090 daily new cases, whereas Orange County is at 2.726. Earlier in the year, there was a great disparity, again, with Anaheim's data being much higher than Orange County. But as you can see, there has been an alignment over the course of February and March. Next slide, please. And this just illustrates for you, again, the data that has been presented earlier. As you can see on the left, Orange County is now at 2.8 average daily new cases. This data is posted with a 7-day lag. So based on our estimations, next week, Orange County will report a 2.7 daily new cases. When you compare, again, the orange tier for Orange County as a whole, we can now look at the red box, which indicates that the data for Anaheim would actually fall within the red tier. And as a reminder, the red tier are when daily new cases are between 4 and 7. So with continued improvement and decline, we anticipate Anaheim might reach the orange tier as well. Next slide. This is just an illustration of the elementary districts in Orange County. And as you may be aware, 11 of the 13 elementary districts in Orange County have already reopened for in-person instruction. Anaheim Elementary and Magnolia are scheduled to reopen for in-person instruction on April 12th. And what this graph also shows you is that both charter schools serving AESD students will reopen for in-person instruction. And actually, when we look at the Vibrant Minds Charter School, they have reopened, and Palm Lane is scheduled to reopen on April 5th. And you will see highlighted in yellow, again, Anaheim Elementary, Magnolia, and Palm Lane Charter, which have dates set. Next slide, please. This is data on the surveys that were completed by our families. And we had 8,064 surveys submitted. And the percentage of surveys choosing in person were 81.31%. The percentage of surveys choosing to continue distance learning was 18.14%. And we had 0.91% choosing AEOA, or Anaheim Elementary Online Academy. I would like to let the board members know that when we have not received responses, our schools continue to follow up with parents, and we will keep the board updated as this survey data improves. Next slide, please. What we like to do at this time, board members, is to show you the schools in your trustee area and the responses that were received. So this is for trustee area 1, and this is board clerk Jackie Philbeck. So in her schools, 83% of parent surveys, and these included Franklin Elementary School, Mann Elementary School, Price Elementary, and Westmont. 83% of the parents chose in-person instruction. 16% chose that their children will remain in distance learning, and 1% selected AEOA. Next slide. This is for trustee area 2, board member Alvarez. 77.6% of the parent surveys at the area 2 school selected a return to in-person instruction. And this included Gower Elementary School, Henry Elementary School, Loera Elementary School, and Marshall Elementary School. Thank you, Iris. Next slide. For Dr. McCollis, 79.2% of the parent surveys in trustee area 3 schools selected a return to in-person instruction. And again, that included data from Barton Elementary School, Madison Elementary School, Ross Elementary School, and Stoddard Elementary. Thank you. Next slide. For trustee area 4, board president Mark Lopez, 80.28% of parent surveys selected a return to in-person instruction. And that included data from Jefferson Elementary School, Olive Street, Orange Grove, Revere, Roosevelt, and Ponderosa. And next slide. For trustee area 5 and board member Ryan Ruelas, 84.8% of the parent surveys selected return to in-person instruction. This included Edison Elementary School, Gwynn, Juarez, Lincoln, and Sunkist. Next slide, please. So at this time, I would like Tracy Golden to give us an update on COVID testing as well as vaccinations.
All right, good evening, everyone. As we plan to return to our schools, we are offering opportunities for all our staff and students to receive testing for free. We do have an ongoing clinic that offers PCR testing at Key Elementary. That's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We are also conducting some rapid testing clinics at Edison, Ponderosa, and Ross during our spring break for students and staff to take an opportunity to get tested right before our planned reopening. We also continue to advertise the other resources that are available throughout the city and the county on our website and our social media accounts. Next slide. This is a list of communications that we have sent to all employees regarding vaccinations in the last 6 weeks. We were very fortunate to be able to collaborate with the Orange County Department of Education and Orange Unified School District to offer vaccine appointments exclusively to all of our employees. We also continue to communicate any resources and information that we get as we get it regarding vaccine opportunities. Next slide. Our COVID-19 safety plan was approved by the Orange County Healthcare Agency. This plan, which is required by the state, consists of two parts. It consists of the Cal-OSHA COVID-19 prevention plan and then a COVID-19 school reopening checklist. So those two together make up our safety plan. And then we also consulted with the healthcare agency on our reopening plan document and updated that. All of those documents are currently posted on our website, on our public website for anyone to access. Next slide. And next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Emma Robles, who is the principal over at Westmont.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Dr. Downing. Good evening, board members. Good evening, cabinet. Thank you so much. I am Dr. Emma Robles, principal of Westmont. So I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you about what site administrators are doing to prepare for the reopening. So with all the valuable information we receive from our cabinet members and directors, we then take this information and we share with our community, with our parent communication through principal chats. So some of us are having principal chats weekly to give updated information and prepare for them. It's important to really share this information with our families multiple times so that they are feeling more comfortable in coming back. So with the principal chats, we do review logistics with families regarding the arrival and dismissal of our students and staff members, schedules that we have put in place throughout the day, and safety on campus. Also, some of our administrators are providing videos through Screencastify to support and share with our families of what our classrooms look like and what it will look like for them coming on site and being 6 feet apart. So that is communication to our families. And in addition to that, we also have our staff training. So when we receive information, we really do take a lot of time and during staff meetings and professional developments with our staff. And we talk to them about planning, schedules, and of course, safety for them and the students, because everyone wants to feel safe. And of course, we are very confident that we are prepared for reopening. In addition to that, to really support our staff members, we have conducted open meets weekly, daily, to give our staff members an opportunity to come and ask questions. So site administrators have been available for our staff members multiple times ever since we have been planning to come back in person. In addition to that, can you go back? We have student chats as well. So site administrators are visiting classrooms. We're talking to our students, preparing them for coming back. We have talked to them about wearing our face masks multiple times throughout the day for longer periods of time to prepare for them. In addition, we also are working with our behavior support team and having classroom lessons on social emotional learning. So we are preparing our kiddos to come back since they have been out of the classroom for a year. So our BST is really diligent in providing these lessons, in addition to site administrators going through and having presentations for our students to ensure that they are going to be safe when they do return. Lastly, we have our campus preparation. So we have our communication with our families, with our staff, with our students, but we also have our campus preparation. So we're working with our custodians who have been working really hard to prepare the sneeze guards, get the classroom set up for 6 feet of social distancing, in addition to working with our M&O department to ensure that we have everything that we need on site, for going to PPE kits to the filtration systems running properly in our classrooms. And there you go. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share information.
Thank you. And Dr. Robles, we just want to point out, you're not here just representing Westmont. It's my understanding that you were selected by the principals to represent our district.
Yeah, I am representing the site administrators, so that's why during my presentation, I refer to site administrators. There are 24 principals and 24 vice principals, so there are 48 people who have been planning diligently to prepare for our students to return, and we are actually very excited to see them, and we feel very confident that we are ready for them.
Thank you. And next slide. So board members, that will conclude our presentation this evening. Our entire team stands ready to address any questions that you might have. And thank you, Dr. Robles.
Thank you, Dr. Robles. Thank you, Dr. Downing, and Tracy Golden. Don't see you on my screen, but I know you're out there. We do have a request. Trustee Alvarez, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that report. I appreciate it. Can we actually go back to that on the slide where we had the 8,064 surveys?
Yes.
I wanted to get some clarification. I believe that there are about 11,000 households in our school district. And so if about 8,000 of them were responded to, that means that about, what, 72, 73% of our families responded and 27% did not approximately. Is that correct, Dr. Downey?
That is correct, which, as you're aware, for a survey, 72% is high.
Yeah, so that in looking at data, I also like to investigate what's missing from the charts, because those are all things are also telling. So if you can go to the next couple slides, maybe even go to the one that's my area, trustee area. In the pie chart, we're missing data that says how many parents did not respond, right? And so that's also a tell about where families might or might not be. So I just wanted to make that clear during the presentation that there's data missing, right? And so this is something that I spoke about last time we were considering opening schools, that there's a subset of our families that for some reason just don't respond to these kinds of surveys, and so they are always not represented in our data. Not to your fault, not to our fault, not to really anyone's fault. I actually have a theory about how culturally some of our families in our most vulnerable areas are disengaged from school, not because they're disengaged with school, but because they trust us as an entity to do right by them. So sometimes I would say that, let's say an email comes through or a text comes through from an administrator, or a message gets sent through the learning management system, and the parent might not think to really react to it, but then relies on like maybe the child or the student to kind of say, oh, that's important or not. And so what I want us to kind of think about is, who are those families that are not being represented in these pie charts, and why aren't they there? And let's think about where they might stand on the kind of like if you did a spreadsheet of who are the essential workers in our community versus who are the people who have the privilege like me to have a job to work from home. I would venture to say, I would make a leap that most of the families that did not respond or have not responded yet, some of them might be that they're undecided yet, but the majority are families that don't know how to connect. And those are the ones that we need to, well, actually, I feel like I need to represent. So if you take into consideration just my area, I had the lowest response rate in area 2. And so I feel like I have a responsibility as the representative of families in area 2 to speak up for them and stand up for them and protect them. And so I just wanted to point that out, because I think sometimes we don't think that we're maybe some data might be missing from our presentations, but sometimes it is. And in some cases, what we're doing is we're removing the existence of some of our families. And so I would caution us to be careful about that. Thank you.
Thank you, board member. And one of the things that I would reassure the board of, again, although we have a 72% response rate, which is extremely high for a district, we continue to reach out to families. School staffs are calling families, and we hear your concern about emails and texts. So staff have been designated to continue to call to make sure that the voices of our families are heard. Thank you.
I just want to share that, first of all, great job. Thank you so much for the presentation, everyone. Dr. Robles, thank you for representing the principals. Again, at all not concerned about the due diligence, the amazing work y'all have done with regards to preparing for reopening, but I still stand on where I'm at. I just don't feel like we're ready to reopen yet. Not to say that the prep work isn't the best. I think it's the best in all of the nation. Great job. And I am so happy our numbers are going down. But I'm worried still. Disneyland is reopening, right? We're reopening. The slide, you know what I mean? In the end of the day, I just don't want to contribute. And I hope we don't. But that very possibility is something that I cannot change my mind on. But again, thank you so much for your amazing work. I know that when we do reopen it, will be the best. But I don't take risks with lives. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Magalis. Any other comments? Seeing none.
I had my hand up,
Oh,
President
sorry.
Lopez.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's
Go
on the
ahead,
screen
Chris Rowe.
too. I have a logistical question in regards to the rapid testing and in regards to the testing overall. Is it possible, because I've heard from some of the other school districts that are opening up, et cetera, that all teachers and students are being required to get COVID testing before entering? Is that at all feasible, or is that even legal, or how does that work? I guess that would be towards Tracy, right? I mean,
yes.
Yeah, so we have been advised by legal that the requirement for student testing before they come onto campus or as a condition of returning to school is not legal. That we cannot do that. You know, we can encourage and offer a lot of opportunities and advertise it and things like that. So you know, that is what we're doing right now. Also, now that we are out of the purple tier, the state requirement of that is no longer required for the reopening. So.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Any other? Okay, go ahead.
Just a question. I spent a lot of time on this past year in meetings with other districts and boards, several that had been open. And I didn't pick up on any issues that they'd had. And this is probably a question for Tracy. Tracy, are you aware, or Dr. Grace maybe, of the districts that have been open and there was that, you know, that whole list? Are we aware of any significant issues? I mean, they're still open and some of them have been open for several months, but do we have any information on any issues with regards to them being open?
Well,
that might be
I know,
too broad of a question, but
yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when any of our staff is in meetings with districts, you know, surrounding districts, there haven't been huge outbreaks. There haven't been huge issues as far as transmission. And then you know, Mary maybe can speak to I mean, there's other issues other than just the COVID part, but like as far as the learning piece or any of that. But as far as I know, they're not reporting any major issues.
yeah, whatever you can offer to give us a little more, Dr. Grace, perhaps.
I would concur with Tracy. You know, if you look at the dashboard, there's a dashboard on every school district page, and there's also a county on the county health page. There's reported incidents. The one thing I do know and can speak to is our YMCA data. So we have had people in our child care program since June of 2020. From June 22nd through August 7th, we had over 153 students enrolled in our childcare program. I think one of the parent comments alluded to that, 5 days a week from 7:30 to 5. And there was one confirmed case of a staff member. And then we opened it up at all of our schools on August 13th. And from August 13th through March 31st, with an enrollment of 860 students attending 5 days a week from 7:30 to 5, there were 16 confirmed staff cases and one confirmed student case. And within the staff cases, there are none that are linked to each other. So that I do know that data. I can't speak about other districts.
And I think I can weigh in about other districts and participating with a weekly call with other OC superintendents, as well as the Orange County Department of Education, as well as the Orange County Healthcare Agency. There have been no reports of outbreaks in Orange County districts that have been open.
Thank you, Dr. Downing and Dr. Grace and Tracy Golden. Thank you for the information. I'm sorry it was kind of a broad question, but you answered it just fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Alvarez.
Thank you. Just in response to that, I think the concern isn't that there aren't going to be any outbreaks in the schools. We're doing everything we can, like Dr. McCullough said, to put in proactive precautions in the school site. My concern is returning back with 80-something% of our students going back to the classroom. Somehow, some transmissions happen, and then the kids aren't going to be affected that much. The science shows that, but them taking that back home, that's where I'm concerned, because now they're going to potentially be infecting their circle of family and people that live in their homes and things like that. That being said, though, I would like to make a motion that the Anaheim Elementary School District, to the extent permitted by law, stay in distance learning for the rest of the year.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Alvarez. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. There is a second by Dr. McCullough. Any further discussion on this item?
Yeah, I have a few things to say. I just want to address, is that okay? Sorry, I don't want to.
Yeah, I was just checking to see if anybody, go ahead, Trustee Alvarez.
Thank you. Sorry, I just jumped on it. Sorry, Mark. Okay, just in talking about comparing ourselves to other districts, I would like to caution us in doing that as well. If you take the scope of size of population that our district has compared to most of our neighboring districts, we're the biggest one. And if you take the population of housing density and the types of jobs that our kids have and the type of living situations that most of our students have in Anaheim Elementary, the only real comparable district is Santa Ana. So I think we should only be really considering them as a comparable district, and then also considering Anaheim Union, because Anaheim Union is where our students feed into, and that's where their siblings go. That being said, it makes sense for us to stay in distance learning as best in a way that we can. I know there's some legal ramifications that we can work on as we move forward, but obviously Santa Ana decided to stay distance learning. Anaheim Union stayed distance learning. So there's obviously ways to make that happen within school districts that abide by the law. And so I think we should discuss doing that as well. And I think just in looking at the schedule changes to our families, going into back and forth potentially between the schedule we have now in distance learning to potentially a hybrid. And then let's say, for example, based on the data, we're seeing that there's a potential spike coming in a couple of weeks because of the spring break. We might potentially then go back to purple tier, and now we're going to tell our families, oh, never mind, we're going to send you back home for now 3 weeks. Oh, wait, all you've been doing is state testing. We're so sorry. We just ruined like the rest of your school year. Like you missed out on all this learning. And so for me, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to continue that way. And just you've heard it all. Even the public comment kind of re-explained everything. I've already talked about where we're at with our most disadvantaged families and how I feel like I need to represent them and their best interest. This isn't just me trying to do something for myself or my own family. This is me thinking about the public health crisis that we're in. It's a public health issue that we're dealing with, and it behooves us as an agency that is set up to protect these families and educate them, to protect them as much as we can, right? So if we can keep them home for two more months, we already have everything in place. The students have a schedule, they're learning. Teachers are working so hard already. And to just flip-flop them into a new schedule to potentially bring them back, and then at the risk of potentially infecting adults in our communities, it just doesn't make sense. All of these options, to me, in my opinion, do not outweigh the public health concerns that are impending. They're coming. And that's just my point of view. And I want us to all just kind of consider that, because it's not about my own personal story, although it does come into play here. It's about the common good of the residents of Anaheim and the families that attend Anaheim Elementary School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Alvarez. I had a couple of comments, but before that, Dr. Downing, if you could, just as a point of order, there was an allusion to any legality. Could you please elaborate on that, Dr. Downing, just for my benefit, regarding the conflation of any items? I know that there was a request for a re-agendizing of the item at our last meeting that was approved, or that during the meeting where we approved our reopening plan. So just for my benefit of avoiding setting any precedent for future board items that perhaps a member of the minority voting bloc might make a motion for. How does that reconcile with our parliamentary procedures moving forward?
Well, as you're aware, the item on school reopening was agendized this evening. During the March 3rd meeting, a majority of the board voted on the motion. So based on our consultation with legal, a motion to reconsider or change the reopening based on this presentation can be considered if the majority of the board determines that an emergency situation exists. And so it's been motioned and seconded, so at this point in time, we are entertaining that motion, because based on this presentation, it's my understanding that we would be deciding that an emergency situation exists, and then a second motion. As we move forward, we can continue to work with CSBA regarding our governance, our bylaws, talk about a collective decision by a majority of the board, a vote by a majority of the board members. But again, based on our understanding from legal, this motion for reconsideration would be based on any emergency situation that we feel exists aligned to the pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. Downing. Any other board members have any comments at this time? Okay, I had just a couple of comments and a question regarding some discussion came about Anaheim Achieves. What has been the status of our Anaheim Achieves throughout the winter break, holidays over November, December, and now into January, February? Have they been in operation throughout most of that time?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just want to say thank you, Trustee Alvarez. Thank you for the reminder for our families who may, being the voice for the voiceless of some of the families. I think it's important that we count all of our families. As I've been meeting with different school sites, I've heard that is the case for, and I think all of us who are in education know that we don't have 100% attendance right now. The way that we are collecting data for our attendance purposes for ADA, which we have been granted by the state that we do count attendance, which may not always accurately reflect all the attendance and instructional minutes that we're getting right now. I've heard from several teachers in our district who have students who log in for 5 to 10 minutes per day.
And you're right, there are some parents who may not even be aware of that because they're at work. They may be disconnected from our district. They may not know that their child should be in school that particular day. So there is a lot of those challenges that are going on right now. I will also just mention that from other comments that I've heard from my own personal experience over the past year, there has been a lot of discussion about what constitutes essential business, essential travel, things like that. And I don't disparage anyone for what they deem to be essential, which there are some very valid activities out there. Attending weddings, birthday parties are very important life moments and life decisions, road trips, family vacations, eating at bakeries, restaurants, delis. So those are very important things for individuals' mental health, well-being. They're life moments that we all cherish because we're all people. But I personally feel that our physical school sites are also should be essential. If those are essential moments and those are essential experiences, giving our families at least the option of returning to school is essential as well. There has been discussion about Anaheim Union and comparable, because we do serve the same families, the same constituents. 48 hours from now, we will have another week of Friday Night Lights. There will be football games, as there have been for the past couple of weeks. And that is, I think, more of a concern for me personally. It has been a difficult, if not impossible, task for me to explain to parents how some of their children can go to football games or play in football games or any other athletics and sports, but they can't return to in-class instruction. So it is a difficult balancing of these different interests that are out there. I appreciate your comment about comparable districts with Santa Ana and Anaheim Union. I think the demographics are most similar in our county. I will say that Anaheim has been fairly hard hit in comparison to other cities and other districts. I don't think we're in a competition with anybody or any other districts, but I do also think that LA Unified has also suffered greatly through the past year. They have a plan to reopen. I think that they're a much larger district, serving many more students, second largest in the country. And the fact that they have a reopening plan as well, I think speaks to the fact that it can be done safely. We have all these other districts that have either reopened or will reopen by the time that we do on April 12th. So again, I thank you for bringing up some important points during the presentation. I think those are valid concerns that that exist, and the fact that they should be completely transparent during our conversations. It is important to have all the data present and available, and allowing our families to make the decision ultimately with that information that's available. I know that there are only, the parent survey had 3 options to it. It would have been, the more options that we have, the more needs it would meet. We could have 10 options and it wouldn't satisfy every single family. There has to be a balance between what we can realistically do in reopening and accommodating the families that would like to return. There just has to be a number of realistic options that are out there. I know that that is another concern as well. It's not a perfect plan because none exists. But this is a realistic plan. It is a feasible, doable plan. And I just want to thank you again, Dr. Downing, you and the cabinet and your team for bringing this forward to us and the update that you provided. And I look forward to hearing from you about an increased number of responses in the parent survey as well as we move forward. So thank you. I didn't see any other hands up for comments. If there are no other comments, I will go ahead and call the vote. The motion is to, just to make sure I got this right, Trustee Alvarez, this was to the legal standard that we can consider reopening our school sites, or sorry, to go to distance learning, continue distance learning for the remainder of the school year.
To continue in distance learning, permitting to the extent permitted by law for the remainder of the school year.
Okay, so motion by Trustee Alvarez, and that was seconded by Dr. McAuliffe. We'll go ahead and take our roll call vote. Dr. McAuliffe?
Aye.
Trustee Relis?
No.
Trustee Alvarez?
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck?
No.
I also vote no. That fails 2-3. Moving on to consent calendar item number 8. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and are acted on by the board in one motion. There is no discussion of these items unless a member of the board, staff, or the public requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. Are there any items to be pulled at this time? Trustee McAuliffe? Trustee Relis? Trustee Philbeck?
No.
Or Clerk Philbeck? No?
No.
Trustee Alvarez?
No.
None? Okay. It is recommended the Board of Education approve or ratify the following consent calendar items with the exception of item 8B.3, which was removed at the request of administration prior to the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved. Relis.
Moved by Trustee Relis.
Second, Philbeck.
Seconded by Trustee Philbeck. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Dr. McAuliffe?
Aye.
Trustee Relis?
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez?
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Passes 5-0. That will take us to item number 9 on our agenda. As soon as I find it here, I will go ahead and read that for us.
It's page 11, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. McAuliffe. Appreciate that. You got too many papers here. Okay, here we go. Action item. Action calendar. Superintendent's Office has recommended the Board of Education adopt resolution number 2020-21/46 in support of the safety, well-being, and condemning hate and violence against Asian American and Pacific Islander AAPI communities. AESD joins cities, counties, and states across the country in affirming its commitment to the safety and well-being of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and in combating hate crimes targeting these communities. Is there a motion?
So moves McAuliffe.
Second, Alvarez.
Thank you. Moved by Dr. McAuliffe, seconded by Trustee Alvarez. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to briefly share, as an Asian American, this touches directly to me, my family, the community. I mean, my earliest memory when I was at Barton, I was in 2nd grade, and I remember a student jumping in front of me and saying, "Ching chong, bila bila bing bong." I remember those words, and I know it's just a microaggression. I know it's just something small that happened at my earliest age. And then throughout my lifetime, microaggressions, thank God my family hasn't been directly affected by this. I do worry because my mom lives in Seal Beach. And recently there was a letter sent to a widowed Asian American woman praising her that, oh yeah, one less Asian when her husband passed. I mean, this is crazy. In the last year, hate crimes against Asian Americans has risen by 150%. 150%. And this isn't to not highlight the Black Lives Matter movement, not to highlight the discriminatory things that happen against Latinos. And it's not to say no our turn. This is just something that has been rooted historically throughout this country and promoted in the last year amongst the federal administration. So it is my hope that the board support this resolution. And thank you, Mr. President, for reaching out to me with regards to this. I fully am thankful for that and for the hard work with the cabinet who put together this amazing resolution. And I hope other elected leaders throughout not just the county, but throughout the country also adopt similar resolutions. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCallis. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, I just wanted to also comment on this as well and just say thank you, Dr. McCallis, for your input and feedback and contributions to establishing the language for this resolution. I think this is represents an important first step in an ongoing process that we need to demonstrate that solidarity with our API, our neighbors, and ensure their physical and mental well-being during this time, and not just during this time, but always, as they are part of our community. What we witnessed throughout this country over the past several months has been disturbing. It's been very unsettling, and unfortunately, it shows no signs of subsiding anytime soon. I think that it is shocking and surreal that we even have to address this issue at all. But it is necessary that we do so. So thank you again, Dr. McCallis, for your valuable perspective and your contributions in composing this. And Dr. Downing, thank you for agendizing it as quickly as you can. Again, it is somewhat symbolic, but I think it is very important as a first step that we stand with all of our community members at all times. So thank you, Board Clerk Philbeck.
I fully support this. It is my daughter-in-law is Japanese. Her family is all in Japan. And it breaks my heart that they are afraid for her because of what they hear. And frankly, I have my doubts that she's 100% safe because people are just, what I've seen has just been, it's been awful. And in any fashion, that type of hate, whether it's Asian, whether it's Black, whether it's, religiously oriented, affecting temples or tabernacles or mosques, it's just, it's awful. And so I'm glad that even though, as you said, Mr. Lopez, it's kind of symbolic, at least we're saying that we take a stand on this together. And so, yes, thank you, Dr. McCallis, for your assistance with this. I'm very happy to see this, and that was it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board Clerk Philbeck. We'll take a roll call vote. Dr. McCallis?
Aye.
Trustee Rellis?
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez?
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Passes 5-0. We are now on item 9A2. It is recommended the Board of Education adopt resolution number 2020-21/47 in support of suspending state assessments for the 2020-21 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, Alvarez.
Moved by Dr. McCallis and seconded by Trustee Alvarez. Any discussion?
All right. So, and I want to allude to one of the comments that a parent or someone shared in public comments. They were talking about the type of learning that occurred in this last year, right? I know that some like to say, oh yeah, there was a lot of learning loss, but look at the multitude of programs, the things that the students were able, the grit that was established, in the end of the day, the type of learning, all right? And I hope the public understands the difference between schooling teaching, learning, right? The different types of learnings that are occurring right now in the current context, right? There is no way that the education testing industry, ETS, the billion-dollar industry, right, that is has been able to adjust to create an assessment that is representative of what the ways in which students have learned, under what standards in that short amount of time. In addition, I do not feel that it is appropriate. Yes, the students are excited to come back, and they're going to come back now, right? And that we focus on how many days of testing. No, let us focus on the social and emotional. Let us focus on, the excitement and the joy of learning. Let us bridge what we have done with our students. Let's provide a community and culturally relevant curriculum and have conversations about what they experienced. That is the true power of education, not no dang tests. Really, you want to measure their academic abilities or what they've learned? It is not an accurate measurement, whatever data comes out of this. So I fully support this, and I think it's a waste of time to come back and just test for 3 days. And that's just my position as a board member. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. McCallus. Any other board comments? Trustee Alvarez?
All right, thank you, Board President. Hi, yeah, so in my view of education, the ideal situation would be that we as a board alongside the cabinet of AESD would meet and develop what we feel locally would be how we measure the growth in our students. And I think that's a possibility, but it takes a lot of courage to come forward as a district and talk about the message about how standardized testing is hurting our students and how it places these stereotypes on our children, right? Based on their social economic status. And it's a measure of, these standardized tests basically measure whether you're impoverished or not. And we shouldn't be doing that. What we should be doing is taking a child, seeing where they started, figuring how to measure where they're at the end of the year, and praise them for how they've grown. And then praise the entire institution for the amazing job they did bringing up that child for that year. That's how we should be looking at assessments within our school districts. And I just want to commend Dr. Downing because he did something very courageous at the CAVE conference, and he spoke out about the idea of how in Anaheim Elementary, we're not going to focus on standardized testing as we move forward, that's not what we're about, that we're about children and we're about community and we're about making sure that we do right by them. That's not exactly what he says, but that's what I got from it. But I just want to say thank you to Dr. Downing for being courageous, because it does take a courageous point of view from leadership at all levels, at different districts, to move forward this idea of how we shouldn't be using standardized tests. These are money makers for corporations. Like, you shouldn't be making money off our children, right? What we should be doing is figuring out how to make money to funnel it back into the community so that we can support our children. That's what we should be doing. That's another conversation that could last maybe 3 days at a conference. But I just want to say I fully support this, and I do appreciate Dr. Downing helped craft the wording and found it from different sources, and it was perfect. Just after I read it, I was like, yep, you got it right on point, and I do appreciate your leadership in taking that on and supporting our students in the best way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Alvarez. Any other comments, board members? I just had one question, Dr. Downing. In the context of the state recently voted on an alternative assessment, I still feel like we should take a position on this, but how does that kind of reconcile with what we have on the item before us? Can we offer an alternative assessment?
Yes, there's some flexibility that has been granted by the state in terms of the assessment. As many are aware, the state is seeking flexibility through a waiver to the United States Department of Education. Dr. Grace, if you want to share a little bit of information about the flexibilities that have been granted so far statewide. All that to say, before I turn it over to Dr. Grace, taking a stand is still something that I strongly recommend our board does through this resolution. Dr. Grace.
Thank you, Dr. Downing. And I would agree the resolution is the first step. At the recent state board meeting, the state board agreed to submit a waiver to the federal government for schools in California to not give the standardized test that is currently scheduled. What they did propose, they proposed that that districts who have an alternative assessment that's valid and reliable and can produce results to parents that let parents know exactly where their students are and what they need to work on would be the alternative. And as a district, we are strategically placed. We have assessments that will qualify and are better measures of the progress of our students. So we're still waiting for the federal government to weigh in on the waiver. And as soon as we hear, we will communicate out to the board and the public.
Thank you, Dr. Grace. Thank you, Dr. Downing. Again, thank you, Trustee Alvarez, for agendizing this and bringing this forward to be on the record with other districts. I think it does call into question the longer term policy that we have toward standardized tests. Of course, as you mentioned, this is beyond the scope of the item here. I think it's a discussion for another time, but this is a good first step. So with that, we have a motion and we have a second. I don't see any other discussion on this, so we'll take a roll call vote. Dr. McAuliffe?
Aye.
Trustee Rellis?
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez?
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Passes 5-0. That takes us to item 9 through A3. It is recommended the Board of Education adopt resolution number 2020-21/45 in support for National Child Abuse Prevention Month throughout the Anaheim Elementary School District to provide an opportunity to inform parents, guardians, and the community of the efforts the district is making to support the prevention of child abuse during the month of April. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved. Rellis.
Second, Alvarez.
Moved by Trustee Rellis, seconded by Trustee Alvarez. Any discussion? Seeing none, I would just like to say that I appreciate this item coming up, and I think it is very timely in the context, especially of our planned reopening of schools, because as we know, our staff is professionally trained to identify any certain issues as mandated reporters. So I think it is important that we have our staff available to help push this forward, this initiative, that we really stand by this resolution as well is very timely. So thank you, Dr. Downing, for that. We will take a roll call vote. Dr. McAuliffe?
Aye.
Trustee Rellis?
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez?
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck?
Aye.
Also vote aye. That passes 5-0 and takes us to item 9B, Educational Services. There are none. Item 9C, SELPA, there are no items. Item 9D, Human Resources. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the appointment of employee number 03312-021-01 to the position of Cybersecurity Specialist effective April 1st, 2021. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second, Rellis.
Moved by Dr. McAuliffe and seconded by Trustee Rellis. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Dr. McAuliffe.
Aye.
Trustee Rellis.
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez.
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck.
Aye.
Also vote aye. That passes 5-0, and I believe Ms. Mellon has an announcement for us.
Yes, thank you very much. Congratulations to Maurice Chang. Mr. Chang will come to AESD after having served as a cybersecurity analyst, an audiovisual technician, and a current member of the Technological Innovation Committee for the Information Security Audit Control Association. Please help us welcome Mr. Chang to AESD as he begins his assignment tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, congratulations are in order. Thank you very much, Ms. Mellon. We will move on to item 9D2. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the revised job description for school safety assistant. This position shall remain on range 1 of the classified salary schedule. Is there a motion?
So moved, Philbeck.
Second, Relis.
Moved by Board Clerk Philbeck and seconded by Trustee Relis. Any discussion?
I'd just like to ask a clarifying question. If you can define this more specifically, what this job description is. I believe we have one at every school, correct? And just take me through some of the job description or what now they will be doing. Please, thank you.
Dina?
Sure. So this action item tonight is just to revise one of the areas of the requirements. So we brought this to the board several months ago, the job description, the initial job description, that has not changed. We've done a couple recruitments and we found that we needed to change the requirement of having the high school diploma in order to take this position. So we took that off, and that is preferred, but it's not something that they have to do this position. Yes, we have at least one at every site. Some sites have more depending on their size, but there's no change to the job description, the essential duties itself. It's just to the requirements for employment into one of these positions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion, questions? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Dr. McCallis?
Aye.
Trustee Relis?
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez?
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck?
Aye.
I also vote aye. That passes 5-0 and takes us to item 9E1, Administrative Services. It is recommended the Board of Education adopt resolution number 2020-21/48 acknowledging Anaheim Elementary School District bus drivers for their continued and excellent service to the youth of our community and declaring April 27th, 2021 as School Bus Drivers Appreciation Day. Is there a motion?
So moved, Relis. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Trustee Alvarez. Age before beauty.
All right, I'll make an executive decision. We'll give that to Trustee Relis with the motion, Trustee Alvarez with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will go ahead and take a roll call vote. Dr. McCallis?
Aye.
Trustee Relis?
Aye.
Trustee Alvarez?
Aye.
Board Clerk Philbeck?
Aye.
I also vote aye. That passes 5-0 and takes us to item number 10, board discussions. Board member activities related to school business. Dr. McCallis, we will begin with you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. President. On March 17th, I did a school visit to Loera Elementary School. I want to thank Principal Garcia for showing me around and sharing all the protocols. She even shared with me some of the maps with regards to the directions in which students will be walking. I'm just really impressed with the principals and all their procedures. You know, I go out there and I ask them questions. What if this? What if that? And they have an answer and they're ready to go. So kudos to a lot of the principals that I've seen so far. Also, I did another school visit on March 24th to Ponderosa Elementary School. Thank you so much, Dr. Moreno, for showing me around as well. Very impressed with all the procedures that you also shared with me. And also, it was interesting because I did stop and observe the Anaheim Achieves. And I'm sure that we're going to give them kudos and props and congratulations, but you know, I did observe for a good time. I asked the principal, well, can I just watch the interaction? and just so amazed by the staff and the students, and so I'm really proud. I think that's important that we recognize Anaheim Achieves for the great work they do during this distance learning during this pandemic. Also, I did a visit on March 29th to Edison. I want to give, well, I didn't do a visit. I went to drop off some donations, some towels, some t-shirts for the kids. And I won't name who it is, but, you know, I know one of our families lost their home recently. And I just want to give kudos to Principal Nichols for organizing that, you know, to take donations for that family. In addition to the amazing things our staff and faculty do, they go above and beyond during these difficult times. So kudos, Principal Nichols. And that's all I have to report, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. McAuliffe. Trustee Relis.
Yes, thank you, President Lopez. So like many of you, I also was able to participate in the town hall. I watched it. I just want to just really give a shout out to Dr. Downing and his entire cabinet. All of you were very, very thorough in regards to your presentations. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and it just made me really, really proud overall of the work that we're doing. Even President Lopez did a good job in the beginning. So kudos to President Lopez for welcoming everybody. The 27th of this month, I participated in my usual food distribution for the families over at the Veterans of Foreign War facility, and that was great. You know, it's always great to see a lot of our families there. Leaders, a lot of our leaders, our family leaders and whatnot, that are going out there and picking up not just one carton of food for themselves, but you're talking 50 to 100 cartons of food, which they're then taking and delivering out to their community. So they're doing a really good job in regards to organizing, and I just you know, just really appreciate them taking on such an active role in our community. And then the 30th, yesterday, I had the opportunity to go visit Sunkiss Elementary School and, you know, check that out and see how it's coming along. And I'm so excited for it to open with students. It is really, really beautiful inside. I love, love, love being, and I believe I've mentioned this before after we did our tours of that school. Doing my undergraduate at Santa Cruz, deep down inside, I'm still kind of a hippie. So I love basically the idea of using the denim, you know, the jeans and denim and whatnot that they utilize in regards to the, I guess it would be the insulation, right, in regards to the buildings. And I just found that to be very clever and whatnot, and you know, great to recycle. And then afterwards, I headed over to the Anaheim Online Academy, and I spent a great deal of time there talking with Principal Kim. The Anaheim Online Academy, it's great, and it's at a new location now. It's over at the Key site, and I'm very, very excited about the endless possibilities that academy can do. I think that Principal Kim has some amazing ideas, and her staff there were just fantastic. It was really cool to go into the classrooms and just see the students engaged and whatnot. And I just want to just give a shout out for them because they have a really great thing going on there. And last but not least, I went ahead and I just want to let everybody know that yesterday I went and got my second shot of the COVID, you know, the COVID vaccine. You know, I will admit I've been very terrified of it because of the fact that you read about the side effects possibly, etc. But you know, fortunately, it's been okay thus far, except for the fact that now I'm feeling a little tired and definitely a little not myself usually, not my usual self. So please, thank you all for bearing with me this evening, and for not me not being my usual rambunctious self, and just taking more of a quiet tone, just because of the fact that I'm feeling the repercussions, right now. But for those of you that can go get your dosage, and it's going to be opening up soon to pretty much everyone. I believe it's April. Is it April 1st? April 1st.
Yeah,
It
15
is.
and older. April
Okay.
1st,
And
April
then
15th, 16 and older.
perfect. And so I just really encourage everybody to please go get your vaccine. But with that said, just remember that even though you get your vaccine, please make sure you're wearing your mask still. It doesn't mean that you can just go out and everything's going to be fine. I mean, we must continue to wear this, and continue to spread, to prevent the spread of COVID. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Relis. And maybe we can get you a vaccine before every board meeting, just so we don't have your usual rambunctious self. Have a little bit of welcome change. Trustee Alvarez, please go ahead.
Thank you, President Lopez. Last week, I spent a few days going in and out of different workshops through CABE. A couple of the workshops kind of stood out to me. One of them was called Checking Systems for Racial Equality and Justice. It was really interesting to see how, as an educational entity, we can dig deep into how we can encourage our staff and our stakeholders to be reflective about themselves and what their perspectives are with regards to race and equality. One session I went on the 25th was called Developing Dual Immersion in a Social, using the social justice standards, which was really cool. There was a teacher, an elementary teacher, that showed us how she changed a science lesson from just being about photosynthesis to being about connecting to social justice within the community space that those students lived in regarding the environment. It was really interesting to see that. So what I think it was really applicable to our district and where we're moving with the CREST committee, specifically if we can, if this goes to Dr. Grace and Dr. Downing, if we can investigate the social justice standards and maybe use that as a point of professional development that we develop within CREST, because it was really cool. Because what I took from it is that our teachers can infuse social justice in any lesson throughout the entire year. And that's key, because we shouldn't just be relying on it's Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's just focus on that subset of people. It's Black History Month. It's Women's History Month. We shouldn't just focus on that one month. We should be speaking equality and racial and social justice about everyone all year. And it was just kind of, it proved to me that it could be done. It is a lot of work, but I think our teachers are up to the challenge. They can do anything now that we've lived through this pandemic. Our teachers are amazing. We can get it done. So I was just really inspired by CABE and the amount of careful planning it took to get these kinds of workshops to be kind of not thrown out there, but provided to us in that space. At the CABE conference, I also attended the Administrative Leadership Symposium, where Dr. Downing was able to be on a panel and speak on behalf of the district. Again, I want to give him kudos for representing us so well. Anaheim Elementary is out there, guys, and everyone knows that we're doing a lot of great things. Everyone knows that we're here for our kids and families. Everyone knows. It's just really obvious. So statewide. So really great to see that kind of in action, right? People know who Dr. Downing is, like all around the state, and they connect him to the amazing Anaheim Elementary School District. So that's what's like the cherry on top. So kudos to Dr. Downing for representing us well at CABE. Also, I went to the 4th District PTA annual dinner, where Dr. Downing was awarded the Outstanding Administrator. It was actually from last year, but they hadn't had the chance to, we talked about it earlier, they hadn't had a chance to award these awards, but he was featured that evening again, representing us in Orange County through the PTAs. I also did attend a coffee chat with Principal Magdaleno at MAN I believe it was last Friday. Gave all the information possible about the return to in-person instruction, provided adequate space for any family to ask questions regarding their concerns, regarding scheduling, regarding anything they wanted to ask. So it was great to see my son's principal give that forum. He did it in English and Spanish. My wife and I went to the English one, and then I popped in for the Spanish one for about 20 minutes or so. And yeah, I would wish there were more parents logging in, but I can understand maybe the time of day is just hard because we might be working. But it was out there, and they're doing a follow-up meeting in case parents missed that. But I just want to give kudos to our faculty and staff at the school sites. They're keeping the schools functioning. They're providing the information to our families that needs to be provided, and we're moving forward. So it's a lot of hard work, and I know we've been doing the hard work, and we'll continue to do the hard work. And I couldn't be prouder of everyone who works for us and with us as we move forward. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Alvarez. Board Clerk Philbeck.
Thank you. As in the past few months or several months, my activities have remained mostly Zoom and virtual, and there have just been so many. I am, however, getting my second shot next Monday. And I know there's a waiting period after, but I'm looking forward to having that layer of safety and security in place. And so it's been busy. A couple of weeks ago for CSBA, I'm a delegate for this region, and it was Legislative Action Week. So we met with several of the elected officials on Zoom meetings, and our agenda included largely the budget, state budget proposal, but also key legislation. And I would have to say that first I started with Tom Daly's office, and then Sharon Quirk Silva's office, and Josh Newman's office. So, and I think we have another meeting next week with Umberg's office. So the conversations were great, and it's really a great opportunity to be able to interact with these elected officials at this level. And there were several other board members and delegates on the call. And I think that actually we're getting noticed, and some of the issues and items we brought forward are definitely, we're hearing now, are going to be addressed. So it's nice to have that support and to be able to work with our elected officials towards the key legislation. Thank you also, Dr. Downing, and all who helped put the town hall together. I did got on a little late, but I did catch it, and as usual, it was excellent. So thank you. I attended a parent advisory meeting virtually. Even my books that somebody mentioned, the books like Read Across America, I read those virtually, and it was kind of cool because I actually got in several more classes by doing it that way. So I might next year combine both, on site and still reading some of the virtual, because I was able to cover several classes. But the parent advisory meeting, Linda Duran gave a presentation, one of the best presentations I've heard on the EDI, Early Development Index. And believe me, I've heard it several times, but she gave an excellent presentation. And EDI is a population-based study that aims to capture data within a community population. And as part of that focus, that also grew into our own Learn Well EDI task force, which I also attended their meeting. Great people. Eric Altman does a great job leading that. And we had quite a robust discussion on the definition of community engagement and changing ideas associated with our work plan components. So some of these meetings go an hour, hour and a half, and they're actually, I learn a lot from them. I attended yesterday, there was a webinar from Supervisor Chafee's office on the 26th annual report on the condition of children in Orange County. Several specialists and people weighed in on that. It was about 2 hours, but it was really, really interesting. And also congratulations, Dr. Downing, for your outstanding administrator of the year. We all knew that, and I think you should get it every year. Really, I think it should just happen every single year, just automatic, roll it over. But also during the, I want to make sure I mention this correctly, that we are AESD, and I should mention along with AUHSD, we are the recipient of the Lynn AOCI, I want to make sure I say that correctly, the Multiple Pathways to Biliteracy District Recognition, which was presented at the recent CABE, and it celebrates districts that are leading the way to world-class language education in preschool through 12th grade. So I think both our district and Anaheim Union High School District can be really proud of that. It's a recognition that I think that we've worked hard to receive, and so it's kind of it makes me very proud to have received that and have that recognition. And I think that is it. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Board Clerk Philbeck. For my board report, let me just take a deep breath here before I continue on with this. March 11th, I was able to attend a staff meeting with the Benito Juarez staff. This is a meet and greet, a lot of great questions, a lot of great turnout. Appreciate that our staff this was a voluntary, not required meeting, but because I know that all of our staff at all of our sites that I've observed in the course of the past 6 or 7 weeks, I've had a great turnout of staff. I know there's never a perfect time to hold a meeting with the staff. All we need is one more Zoom or Google Meet on our schedule. But I have had a very good turnout, great questions, great insights that a lot of the staff has brought up at every single one of the sites. And the March 16th, of course, we had the town hall, which was alluded to. Anything that I did that looked good on that meeting, on that town hall, was completely unintentional, and all credit for that goes to Mr. Brooks at DES for making me look good. So thank you, Mr. Brooks. I was also that same day able to meet with John Marshall staff. Again, a great discussion with the staff there as well. March 17th, I was able to meet with James Madison staff, Horace Mann staff, and attended the LCAP Advisory Committee meeting. On March 18th, I was able to meet with the Loera staff. On March 23rd, I had a tour of Olive Street and Thomas Jefferson schools for a tour of just similar to Dr. McCallus of the protocols and precautions that we have in place at the school sites. Did get a lot of photos of everything that's been implemented and changes that are still occurring and ongoing before we reopen on April 12th. Then I was able to meet with Price staff and Sunkist staff. And then because I had such a great time with Sunkist, I went back for a PTA board meeting the same day. And then I attended a Benito Juarez School Site Council ELAC meeting that same day. March 24th, which was last Wednesday, I attended a Los Amigos meeting with Board Clerk Philbeck. Dr. Downing was able to attend a portion of that as well. I want to say thank you to Dr. Grace and Tracy Golden for your expertise in the meeting and attending that with us. I know that Board Member Relis attended this morning as well. We had to stagger that for obvious reasons. So I appreciate our board members who were willing to meet with Los Amigos. It's never a dull moment. We always like meeting with Los Amigos. And that same day, I also had a school tours of Orange Grove and Roosevelt to see all of the safety precautions that have been put into place there as well. Again, Anaheim Achieves was there at several of the school sites in session while I was touring. So I was able to observe that just as Dr. McCallus was as well. March 25th, I had a tour of Paul Revere and Ponderosa. Again, able to see all of the great precautions that are going on there. Anaheim Achieves. There were a lot of school food distributions for the families in the neighborhoods. And then I was able to meet with Ross staff, Westmont, and Stoddard. So I was able to meet with all 24 of our school sites in the last, give or take, 6 or 7 weeks. And look forward to going back through and cycling through the 24 later this year. Hopefully it's in person. So that concludes my board report. We will move on now to Future agenda items, number 11. Any future agenda items, Dr. McCallus?
Nope.
Trustee Relis? Trustee Alvarez?
No.
All right. Board Clerk Philbeck?
No.
All right, great, thank you. I do have just a couple of items, not necessarily board agenda items, but directives just for the staff. Dr. Downing, for you and your staff. As I mentioned, I have been attending a lot of community meetings out and about throughout Anaheim. Well, I guess it's more virtual than actually in Anaheim, but I've been calling in from my house, so I have been in Anaheim while I've been attending these meetings. But I do want to mention this because during the course of a lot of community meetings I've been in recently, there have been multiple requests for public records and public documents related to our reopening operations. So as a result, I just wanted to remind our staff to enforce our existing public records policy consistently and refer any members of the public who are requesting documents that they complete and submit a Public Records Act request. I think that that is very important that we be responsive to, especially our stakeholders during this time, which includes our parents, employees, and taxpayers who live within the Anaheim Elementary School District area. And we value members of the public who would like to know more about what we're doing in the amazing AESD. But at the same time, we are in the midst of a Herculean effort to reopen our physical school sites. And we would like to have those requests processed appropriately in the policy that we've established in order to be responsive to those members of the public. I also wanted to mention in some of my conversations with staff that I have conducted over the past several weeks, there has been a lot of discussion about our PPE and concerns about that. So I do want to reinforce, Dr. Downing, as we are examining and looking at all of the options that we have available. Some of our staff have had some concerns, especially when it comes to some of our special education population and meeting their goals. I would like to note that today I did have a triennial assessment at my school site at work today, where I was in the classroom with a student for about an hour conducting an assessment on their testing their cognitive abilities. Our district has provided, I'll just kind of hold up this as a prop here. This is a what they call a humanity shield. Some of you may be familiar with this. They're similar to almost a beekeeper mask, but instead of the netting, it's a plastic shield and helps with being able to articulate certain words. So I would like us to explore all potential options that are out there with our CARES Act funding, working with Mr. Chavarria to make sure that we can provide all these options to help reduce and alleviate the anxiety of our staff. Those are a little expensive, but I think that there is no price that we should really overlook as we are ensuring the health and safety of our staff and our families as we move forward. Finally, I would also ask that because we have been meeting here in our boardroom has been open for the board members who would like to attend and staff who are here for the past 2 board meetings, that we look at a future date, whether that's April 21st, that we can reopen in a limited capacity for any members of the public who might like to attend in person as well. It's been my position, as I've spoken to all of our school sites, that I would not support returning our staff to the classroom until we had our board members in board meetings in person. We've done that. However, it is somewhat symbolic if it's just the board members. We've all, everyone in the boardroom has received at least the first dose of the vaccine. I have my second dose scheduled for April 10th. So I'll be taking it then. So that will be 3 weeks before the next board meeting that we have. So I would like us to, in a limited fashion, limited capacity, with the same precautions that we're using for our classrooms, that we examine a potential date on the calendar where we can do that. And that concludes my directives. Thank you, Dr. Downing.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, we will move to item number 12, which is our adjournment Our next regular board meeting will be on Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. Our board meeting is now adjourned at 8:44. This clock behind me is 1 minute behind. So it is 8:44. We were adjourned until then. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, board members. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.